What's up YouTube, it's Ravlar here and welcome back to another video. So if you're new around here, make sure you subscribe for lots of RS3 content and check out my Twitch and Twitter because I am streaming and tweeting some very entertaining things, if I may say so myself. But anyway, I've been working very hard for you guys over the past 24 hours to make an epic Elite Dungeons 2 full solo guide. So as this is quite an in-depth guide to Elite Dungeons 2, it is quite a long video, so I've put timestamps to everything interesting down in the description below, so if you need help with a specific area of Elite Dungeons 2, feel free to go down in the description and click on the area you need help with and it will take you right there. So here it is guys, and if it does help you, please make sure to leave a like down below, and if it doesn't help you, tell me what colour socks you're wearing. But anyway guys, enough of my rambling, let's get right into it. So the Dragonkin laboratory is located northeast of the wilderness. It's very deep, so don't be silly and go that route. Instead, take the easy option and open your grouping system, select Dragonkin laboratory, select view selected, create a group, complete the group and teleport there. Once you're here, there will be a banker right next to you a bit on the west, and in the center is the entrance to the dungeon, and right next to it is this Mr. Thok dude who sells you lucky charms and lots of other goodies. Oh, and of course, just in case it doesn't go without saying, you don't need to use your grouping system if you have a max portal, just tune it here and it's a lot easier that way. But anyway, let's get right into the recommended setup. First of all, you will be needing a tier 90 weapon. You can use any style you want to be honest, but range and mage are better in my personal opinion. Armor wise, I recommend a minimum of tier 80 with the normal PVM perks, but with a little caveat, you want to be having Dragon Slayer. You can easily get this with 4 explosive components and 1 Dragonfire component, and this may give you Crackling 3 plus Dragon Slayer. It's not that rare, so I recommend doing it if you want to be camping this place. Aura, I highly recommend using a Zerka Aura or the highest accuracy aura you have. Amulet, Amulet of Souls. Ring, Ring of Death if it's new to you, or if you're super confident, bring an Asylum Surgeon ring. Gloves, well, if you're using range, I recommend using Nightmare Gauntlets. Otherwise, if you're melee or magic, use Cinderbanes. Scrimshaw wise, it's pretty standard. If you're ranging, use Cruelty. If you're maging, use Element, and if you're meleeing, use Vamp. As for your inventory setup, if you're ranging, I highly recommend you bring an offhand crossbow and some chins because they are exceptionally good at clearing the mobs, and optionally you can bring an hex hunter like I do because it's pretty much the best in slot against most of the monsters in here. Now if you're meleeing, obviously bring a size switch, and if you're maging, bring some vuln runes. Now let's go into the generalized inventory. Of course, if you're using ranger magic, bring a planted feet switch. You always want to have a shield. If you can, bring Supreme Overload salves. If you haven't got this unlocked, bring some normal Supreme Overloads and get some anti-dragon fire potions. You also would want to have some lucky charms because this allows you to get rare drops. You can buy this from the dude outside, which I showed you in the beginning, and they cost 10k dungeoneering tokens each. You would also want a replenishment potion, weapon poison plus, and I highly recommend that if you are farming this for good GP, well, bring a summoning flask and go on a titan because it's very useful here. And it's not that hard, so you don't need a yak, but if you're learning, just bring a yak. And for your food and supplies, you want about 4 brew flasks, 2 restore flasks, and the rest food. You can optionally bring a bladed dive switch, which I find very useful, but it's completely up to you. Also, if you have Dominion Mines unlocked, I highly recommend that you have a stack of them ready in the bank for the final boss fight, as it speeds it up quite a bit. So when you're ready, go to the dungeon entrance and enter, and you'll be dropped down into a room full of cave slimes. Now to pass the barrier you need to kill them, and don't be fooled, these guys are some sneaky fuckers and they do a bit of damage and they multiply. So yeah, there are a few ways you can deal with them. The first way, which I've seen most people do, is just like trying to get them in a line and stun them. Well, I'm not a fan of it. I rather go with my way, which is to start off with a bit of adrenaline, so pop a dummy outside, maybe get like 50%, come down in, Go towards the barrier, make sure they're stacked up, turn on Protect from Melee and Devotion, use Chins, use Snapshot and Rapid Fire, and once one of them dies your devotion is extended and you can pretty much wipe them out in a few seconds. Now, once the barrier is opened and you can't be asked to kill the rest of the slime, just quickly go towards the entrance again and exit the laboratory and re-enter, and voila, no more slimes. Go ahead and run through where the barrier was and hug the right wall because there are spiders on the left and we don't want them to aggro us, so this kind of keeps them away, and kill the 3 red dragons which are required to open the next barrier. Once you have this, run a bit north and drop a Death Swiftness and there will be some more red dragons for you to slaughter. Once you've killed all the red dragons, the next barrier will drop, and in this section we have to kill a bunch of moss golems, and these are very dangerous if you don't deal with them properly, so pray melee, just drop a corruption shot on one of them and go towards the barrier and run up and down. This causes them to pile up. Once they're piled up, turn on devotion and go ham with your chins. Your devotion will be extended, you take no damage, and they will be dead in a few seconds. Once the barrier opens, head north and be careful because this is the area where I find I use the most food in the entire dungeon, and run into a corner and let the mobs get on top of each other. Kinky, I know. Once they're there, just chin them down, use devotion when you can. You will need to eat for this bit, and don't bother killing the books because you don't need them to open the barrier. Once all these mobs are dead, head into the next room and there will be a bunch of celestial dragons. Now, these celestial dragons are different from the surface world and they have a special attack which heals them. You get a little pop-up message when they're about to do their special, and all you have to do to prevent it is to stun them, so make sure you save your stuns for this. So go ahead and make your way through the room, killing the celestial dragons on the way, and once you get to the bottom of the stairs you will see 2 celestial dragons by the chest. You only need to kill the one on the left to unlock the barrier, so go ahead and do that. So once the barrier is open, you are now free to teleport away and restock. If you have done this, just enter the dungeon normally and go to the chest and teleport to the second option, and it will bring you right where we left off. Now, this is the first boss fight, so get ready. Also, if you want to have the chance at having a double drop, you can toggle the auto loot off just for the boss fight and toggle it back on afterwards. It's completely up to you. But anyway, let's get right on with the fight. So enter, pray mage, make sure you're potted up and everything, and for the first few seconds simply DPS the boss. After a few seconds the boss will summon a pulsar star, and this is the first reoccurring mechanic of this boss fight. To deal with this, all you have to do is simply DPS it down, because otherwise it does recurring 1k hits on you, which is obviously not desirable. Now, shortly after this, we face the second mechanic where you get a message saying that the boss has chosen you for a wormhole. Now, to deal with this mechanic effectively, you have to be in the correct position, and here is an example of this with the arrow on screen, just on this tile in the circle. As soon as the wormhole is placed, get off it, otherwise it will damage you. Why we placed it in this location will become clear in just a few seconds. Now, shortly after you place the wormhole, you will get a message saying that the boss has summoned a neutron star. Now make sure you do not go MD to this, otherwise it will explode and smack you for a 7k. So the idea is to get this star onto the black wormhole. As soon as you do so, the wormhole will turn white. Once it does so, make sure you stand on the white wormhole and DPS the boss down. Now, say you fail to put the neutron star on the wormhole, well, it means that you won't be able to damage the boss, and you'll have to wait until the next cycle spawn. Shortly after this, the boss will choose a random quadrant of the arena to make it rain. Now, if you're standing in this quadrant where the rain is over, you will be dealt constant damage, so don't stand there. Now, this is why we placed the wormhole in this location, because it covers exactly 2 quadrants. So for example, if it's raining in the northeast quadrant, you can step to the northwest quadrant. If it's raining in the northwest quadrant, you can step to the northeast quadrant. This way you will always be able to DPS the boss. Now, the cycle of mechanics repeats itself, so just deal with them as you see fit, and just DPS the boss down as much as you can when you get the white wormhole. Sometimes we're very lucky and the neutron star spawns right above the wormhole and it turns white straight away, which is great for us. However, sometimes it can be a bit more difficult and you need to have your wits about you, so make sure that you are aware and looking for that star ASAP. That's about it in terms of this boss's mechanics. You can get him down very quickly, just be aware, and if you're low on health you can always res the boss's mage hits for a nice chunky heal. After the boss is dead, turn back on the auto loot chest if you so wish, and then head south to the passage which is just unlocked, and you will find a room filled with 3 celestial dragons. Kill the first 2 closest to you, and this unlocks the passage that we need to go through next. So go through the passage to the south and make sure you hug the wall and surge towards the east. Now, this is to make sure that you don't get aggroed by the spiders because they are very annoying, but anyway, head round towards the lava strike worms and kill them to open the barrier. Once the barrier is open, follow the path and you may come across a mini boss which you can kill for dungeoneering tokens if you so wish, but I recommend you ignore it if you're just going for GP, and you'll find a bunch of black dragons. Now you need to kill all these black dragons for the next barrier to open, so go ahead and wipe them out. Once you have killed that bunch of black dragons, the barrier will open and you will find some more dragons that you need to kill. There will be a chest which we need to teleport to later, but we can't teleport to right now. But anyway, go ahead and kill these black dragons so we can head towards the next passage. After the dragons are dead, the passage to the west opens and there is a path filled with lava strike worms. Just go ahead towards the barrier on the other side. Now the 4 lava strike ones closest to that barrier need to be killed for it to open, so go ahead and kill those 4 and ignore the first 2 on the way. Now we've come to the final passage before the next boss, and here we have some more black dragons to kill, so go ahead and kill them. Sorry, I know this is a bit repetitive, but it's just the design of the dungeon. Now, if you have enough supplies, feel free to cross the bridge over the lava to get to the next boss. Alternatively, you could go and bank and restock and teleport back to this chest, but as I have a full inventory of supplies, we're just going to get right into the fight and I'll show you the mechanics. Make sure you're potted up, have protect from mage on, turn your scrimshaw on, etc, and go ahead and do some DPS. Now, the first mechanic that you'll receive, you'll get a little pop-up message saying that the boss slams his tail against the ground. Now, what this means is that a spike is going to come up, so you should either pray melee or you could resonance the hit. Now, if you res it, it's only like 2 or 3k, so it's really up to you. Regardless, you can't attack the boss until you destroy the spike, so just go ahead and DPS it down and then get back to DPSing the boss as normal. And just a word of precaution, try and make sure that you're not MD of the boss, because then you need to be praying melee and you can be hit with a mage hit. So yeah, it's best to just pray mage and stay away from the boss. Now the next mechanic occurs when you get a little message saying that the boss's shock, ice or poison ricochets off you. Now when you get this message, you will see some green arrows on the floor, and the idea is that you need to go and stand and collect whatever it is. Once you've collected it, you will see a timer on top of your head, and this is very important to pay attention to. Now if you do not collect it or do not deal with this mechanic properly, you will be smacked a huge hit. I'm talking 10k plus, but luckily for you, I'm here to help you with that. So the ideal way to deal with this is to protect from mage, make sure that's on, and when the timer is about halfway done, devotion and then resonance. Now what this does is it stops any of the boss's attacks hitting you with mage because devotion is on, and you're free to res the hit safely, and it is a huge res, so you really don't need any food from this boss, to be honest. Now the other method is good to know just in case your resonance is on cooldown, and what you need to do is you need to collect the element, so it's either ice, shock or poison, and once you get the bar above your head, you need to go to one of the 3 eggs around the arena which is not your element. Bit tricky, so I'll try and explain. So say for example I get an ice element, I need to go to one of the eggs which is either poison or shock. Once I go there and click investigate, the bar will be removed from my head and the attack is avoided. But if I get an ice and I go towards the ice egg, nothing will happen. It's a bit tricky to explain, but I hope you got it. Regardless, anyway, the first resonance method is way better to use. This is just a backup in case your resonance is on cooldown, so it's just good for you to know. But anyway, on to the next mechanic. So sometimes the boss may shoot a yellow ball of fire at you, and once it lands, it will multiply into several spinning flames. All you need to do to avoid it is simply surge away or run away. Do not let the flames hit you once they've turned into the spinning things, because they will wreck you. Like literally they will 2-tick you and you'll be dead. So very easy to avoid, just don't touch it. Finally, the last mechanic we need to discuss is basically a knockoff Vindictor Flames and is exceptionally easy to avoid. So basically you will get a message saying that a black dragon is about to swoop down, and you'll get a target displayed on the floor. Now this target is where the dragon will land its flames, and all you need to do is just be away from that target when it lands, and yeah, I bet you'll never ever get hit by this if you pay attention. And to be honest, that's all there really is to this boss fight. It's really easy. All you need to do is just pay attention to the mechanics which I pointed out to you guys, and you will be absolutely fine. It does take a while to kill, but you should aim to kill it under 1 overload dose. Anyway, now the boss is dead, we now need to go to the next passage. So what you can do is just teleport out and go and restock, so we're ready for the final boss when we get there. Or if you have enough supplies, just go to the chest we passed on the way here and teleport to option number 4. Alternatively, if you restock, just re-enter the dungeon and teleport to option number 4 from the chest at the entrance. Now this is the passage towards the final boss, so what you want to do is surge forward and go towards the Hydrix and Dragonstone dragons by the barrier. We need to kill the 4 closest dragons to the barrier to unlock it, so go to a corner to make sure only 2 can attack you and go ahead and kill them all. Now be careful because these dragons have the same specs as they do on the surface world, so if you see any spikes coming towards you, all you need to do is move 2 spaces away and you should avoid it. And something to take note of is one of these dragon specs reduces your anti-fire duration, which is exceptionally annoying because you can literally get 1-hit KO'd if it is not on, so pay close attention to that. Anyway, once you've killed all these dragons, go ahead and go a bit up the stairs and you'll find 2 more dragons which you need to kill to enter the next barrier. Once the barrier is open, follow the path south and you'll find 2 more dragons. You can completely ignore these and head towards the next couple of dragons that you see by the barrier. Now you need to kill these 2, so carefully kill them, make sure you don't get specced, and yep, wait for the barrier to open. Finally, you'll come across the last 2 dragons that we need to kill and the chest, so go ahead and kill those 2 dragons. Once you've killed those 2 dragons, you are now able to teleport to this section of the dungeon through the chest, which is option number 5. Now, if you haven't got a full inventory of supplies and you feel not confident, go ahead and bank and restock. Also, if you do have Dominion Mines unlocked, make sure you bring them now. Now is the time for the final boss, and let's get ready for the last fight. So once you're ready, make sure your overloaded scrimshaw is on, weapon poison is active, go ahead and enter the room and attack the boss. Make sure prey range is on if you're not MD, and go ahead and DPS him down. Now things you need to watch out for is that if you are MD, pray melee, that is preferred, otherwise you can just pretty much kite the boss and pray mage. Now one of the mechanics that you need to watch out for is that this boss shoots spikes like normal Hydrix dragons. so you have to be very careful because they do a lot of damage and you can pretty much get signed straight away. So every time you see him shoot some spikes out, go ahead and run away from them. Now the boss's standard attack is that black smoke cloud which comes slowly towards you, and that is a magic hit. So if you're not in MD, I recommend to pray mage because it negates it. So the first phase is pretty simple. All you need to do is just avoid those attacks and DPS the boss down to 515k health, and then we move on to the next phase. Now once we get to this phase, 4 hands will spawn around the corners of the center. Now while these hands are alive, we can't actually kill the boss, so part of this boss fight is to actually kill all of these hands successfully, then we can move on to the next phase. Now it's important to stay on the outer circle of these hands, because if you go towards the middle you will face multiple attacks from multiple hands, and that is quite painful to deal with. The good news is that it's pretty easy to deal with their attacks and they're completely predictable. So when the hand slaps the ground, you know it's going to release a smoke attack like the boss did earlier. Now as soon as the smoke attack hits you, crawling hands from the ground like in the first elite dungeon will come towards where you were standing, and if they hit you they will do massive damage. But all you need to do is simply move out the way. This is very easy to deal with, so all you need to do is just pay attention. Now a few tips and tricks. The time between attacks is actually very large. During this period of time you can soul split back a lot of health, so I highly recommend that you do so. So after you're hit by the mage attack, switch from protect mage to soul split and you'll be able to heal back a ton of health. Now Dominion Mines are extremely overpowered here, but you want to make sure that you use them safely. You can use them as soon as the boss starts to phase, but if you're new, what I recommend is wait for the first attack and wait for the first hands to come out, then go MD to the hand and place the mines then. This is completely safe because there is a lot of time between the hands attacks. Another tip is that if you're running low on health, instead of eating food, you can resonance one of the mage hits and it heals a lot, like 3 or 4k, so it's very easy to sustain yourself here. If you have a flanking switch with you, you can also flank the hands when they are facing the other way for that extra DPS, and feel free to drop a death swiftness between 2 sets of hands if one is on low health and the other is high. This way you'll be able to use your death swiftness to get the damage boost for both sets of hands, but be careful because you will face attacks from both hands at the same time as well. Apart from that, this phase is pretty easy and you should be able to get through it. The hit chance on these hands is a bit low, so if you do have Reaper Necklace switch, feel free to bring that as well. After the hands are dead, you can now attack the boss again and it will soon start to do another attack. The boss stands still, electricity comes out of it, and it slowly begins to be circled by a light blue flame. Now this flame will keep moving, and while this attack is being undertaken, the boss will not move or attack you. Now the best way I found to deal with this is to hug the boss really close, literally go as close to it as possible and drop a death swiftness and DPS him down. You can soul split during this phase because he won't be attacking you, but when his special attack is nearly over, make sure you pray melee. Also, if you do have a flanking switch with you, make sure you death swiftness behind the boss as close as possible so you get that extra DPS. Anyway, just be careful of the circle of flame. It does come towards you sometimes and it can be a little tricky to deal with, but just be aware and you shall be fine. So continue to DPS the boss down and deal with the aforementioned mechanic, and once it gets to around 250k HP, it goes on to the next phase, which is unfortunately mind-numbingly boring. What the boss does is it jumps around the arena 10 times, and every time it lands, a path of blue flame comes towards you, and it's pathetically easy to avoid. Whilst the boss is jumping around, unfortunately you cannot damage it, so what you should be doing is making sure that you are at full adrenaline. You can stack shards if you want, and once it reaches around its 8th jump, you could be doing a natural instinct rotation, so you could have some extra DPS when it lands and you're able to attack it again. But I'm lazy, so I did neither of those things. Anyway, when the boss lands, it's the final phase, you can attack it, and all you need to do is just DPS it down. The first thing it will do as soon as it lands, it will do the smoke spiral thing again, so you can prepare for this by going near it and doing a Death Swiftness rotation. I'm a pleb, so I planted my Death Swiftness absolutely ages away from it, which kind of screwed me over, but regardless, it becomes really easy from now. All you need to do is just deal with the mechanics. If you go MD, turn on Protect from Melee. If you're far away, turn on Protect from Mage, and every time it does the spiral thing, it's your opportunity to do a hench amount of DPS and heal yourself back up with Soul Split. But that's basically the crux of the fight. It isn't hard at all. I'd say it's a lot easier than Seiryu, and after 1 or 2 attempts you should have it down completely, and you can easily titan this. I highly recommend it because spamming the Summoning Flask really does help out a lot here. Anyway, once you've killed the boss, congratulations. Make sure you go outside and click on the chest so you can see what your loot is. It's up to you whether you bank it or not, but well done. Well guys, that about wraps it up for this guide, and I really hope that it helped you. I put in so much time into this, and I hope it shows. If it did help, I'd really appreciate it if you leave a like. I will be uploading a lot more RSV content, so do feel free to subscribe and check out all my social media in the description below. But anyway guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any video suggestions, feel free to drop them down in the comments below and I'll make sure to give it a consider. But anyway guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. To the outro.